Today, let's finish Dama с собачкой. We are on our last podcast for this Chekhov, reading with Chekhov. We've done a few episodes of this, so let's finish this off. За что она его любит так? Он всегда казался женщинам не тем, кем был. И любили они в нем не его самого, а человека, которого создавало их воображение, и которого они в своей жизни жадно искали. И потом, когда замечали свою ошибку, то все-таки любили. Why does she love him so much? He always seemed like somebody else to women than who he actually was. And they loved in him not himself, but a person that their imagination created. And somebody who they desperately wanted in their life. And then, when they noticed their mistake, they still loved him. So, за что она его любит? What for? За что means what for? For what accomplishments, or for what characteristics of his character? So, yeah. Он казался. He seemed, he appeared. Он казался не тем, кем был. He seemed somebody who he was not. Okay? Next. И ни одна из них не была с ним счастлива. Ни одна из них. Not one of them. Not one of them was happy with him. Not even one. So, ни одна. Ни одна, it's not не одна, it's N-E. Ни одна, not even one. Не была с ним счастлива. Счастлива is a short adjective of счастливая. Счастливая is happy, but счастлива is a short adjective of the same meaning. But we use short adjectives in Russian when the adjective is the main part of the sentence. So, она не была счастлива. She was not happy. Happy here is the main point. Время шло, он знакомился, сходился, расставался, но ни разу не любил. Было все, что угодно, но только не любовь. The time has passed. He would get acquainted with somebody, would get with them, would separate from them, but he didn't love not once. It was everything else but love. I love the structure of this sentence. It's pretty remarkable. So we're using verbs. And then the last verb would be a contrast to the previous. Время шло. Time went. Шло. Went. Он знакомился. Знакомиться is to get familiar, to get acquainted with somebody when it comes to a person. When you meet somebody on the street, that's знакомиться. So time went. He met with someone. Сходился. Would come together with someone or start being with them. So, time went, he met, he got together. Then расставался would get separated or break up with them. Но ни разу не любил, but he didn't love not once. So, time went, he met, he got together, he broke up, but never loved. I love this contrast of how he did multiple things, but then the fact that he didn't love is the contrast of it all. Было все, что угодно. Все, что угодно is a great phrase. Anything. Было все, что угодно. It was anything else, что угодно. Но только не любовь. But love. Great sentence here. И только теперь, когда у него голова стала седой, он полюбил как следует. По-настоящему. Первый раз в жизни. And only now. И только теперь. And only now. Теперь here is used to say now, but it signifies change. Когда у него голова стала седой, when his head turned gray, он полюбил как следует. He loved as one should. He loved properly, как следует, as it should. Okay? По-настоящему. По-настоящему means like really or truthfully. Первый раз в жизни. First time in his life. Not that he's married, having kids, but it's the first time that he fell in love. Первый раз в жизни. Анна Сергеевна и он любили друг друга, как очень близкие, родные люди, как муж и жена, как нежные друзья. Им казалось, что сама судьба предназначила их друг для друга, и было непонятно, для чего он женат, а она замужем. И точно эти две прелестные птицы, самец и самка, которых поймали и заставили жить в отдельных клетках. Great sentence as well. Анна Сергеевна и он любили друг друга. They loved each other as very close people, relatives almost, as wife and a husband, as tender friends. It seemed to them that the fate itself predetermined them for each other. And it was not clear what for was he married, what for was she married to. And these were as these two wonderful birds, male and female. We have this самец и самка, male and female birds. Самец и самка is male and female when it comes to animals, okay? Которых поймали и заставили жить в отдельных клетках, who were caught and were forced to live in separate cages. These two birds, male and female, were caught and forced to live in two separate cages, but they were one as the fate determined. So some of the linguistic things here. I love his description of them in the beginning. Очень близкие, very close. Близкие is a close, soul to soul. Родные. Родные is not just relatives. It's like kindred. It's two souls that are like one and the same. Not because if you're talking about that they felt like relatives to each other, then that would be like, they having a love affair within the family. That's not what this means. Родной is a person who feels so, it's like a soulmate to you. Родной человек. It's a person who is so dear to your heart. Okay? It can also describe a relative too. It's like a double meaning there. Как нежные друзья, нежные means tender, as tender friends. Им казалось, it seemed to them, что сама судьба, that the fate itself, предназначила их друг для друга, has determined them for each other. Для чего он женат? What for is he married? What for? What's the purpose of this? А она замужем, and she married too. Tough stuff. Они простили друг другу то, чего стыдились в своем прошлом. Прощали все в настоящем и чувствовали, что эта их любовь изменила их обоих. They forgiven each other for everything that they were ashamed of in the past. They were forgiven everything in the present, and they felt that this love changed them both. Простить, они простили, they forgave друг другу for each other, то, that, чего стыдились, that which they were ashamed of. Прощали все, were forgiven everything в настоящем, in the present. Эта их любовь, this love of theirs, изменила их обоих, changed them both. Прежде, в грустные минуты, он успокаивал себя всякими рассуждениями, какие только приходили ему в голову. Теперь же ему было не до рассуждений. Он чувствовал глубокое сострадание. Хотелось быть искренним, нежным. In the past or before, in sad minutes, he calmed himself down with different thoughts. Any thought that would come to his mind. But now, there was no thought in his head. He had no time for thoughts. He only felt a deep compassion. He wanted to be honest and tender. Искренний here means honest or искренний, I forget the English word. Sincere. He wanted to be sincere. So, в грустные минуты, in sad minutes, он успокаивал себя. He calmed himself down. Теперь ему было не до рассуждения. So, we have this saying, мне не до something. I don't have time to this. Мне не до работы. I don't have time for work. Мне не до слез. I don't have time for tears. So, мне plus не до plus a word means I don't have time for something. And of course, we can replace мне with ему, to him, ей, to her, тебе, to you. Great, great structure. Хотелось быть искренним, нежным. It felt like he wanted to be sincere and tender. He didn't want to think about nothing, but just be in his feelings. Then he says, «Перестань, моя хорошая», — говорил он. «Поплакала и будет. Теперь давай поговорим. Что-нибудь придумаем. Stop it, my dear», he said. «You've cried for some little, and that's enough. Now let's talk. Let's think of something». So here we have a lot of verbs. Говорил, said. Поплакала. You cried for a little bit. Перестань, stop. Поговорим, let's talk. Придумаем, let's think of something. Потом они долго советовались. Говорили о том, как избавить себя от необходимости прятаться, обманывать, жить в разных городах, не видеться подолгу. Then they talked for a long time. Советовались means they talked, but they also exchanged ideas. They talked about how can they get rid of this necessity of hiding, lying, living in different cities, and not seeing each other for a long time. Как освободиться от этих невыносимых пут? How do you set yourself free of this unbearable knots? Put is not really knots, it's like a entanglement when you've been tied down. He says, как? Как? Спрашивал он, хватая себя за голову. Как? How? How, he asked, clutching his head. How? И казалось, что еще немного, и решение будет найдено. И тогда начнется новая, прекрасная жизнь. И обоим было ясно, что до конца еще далеко-далеко, и что самое сложное и трудное только еще начинается. That is it. And it seemed like just one moment, and the decision will be found. And then this new and wonderful life will start. And to both it was clear that until the end is very far to the finish line. And that the most difficult is only beginning. That is it? You don't have any resolution? Did they go back to their wives? What has happened? Okay, Dama Sabachka, is that really, maybe I made a mistake and didn't copy the whole book? That's it. That's Russian literature for you. It doesn't give you an answer. It's just planting you in the story, but the story is not finished. You know why? I love this about Russian literature, about Russian movies as well, Soviet movies as well, especially, is that they depict life. In life, is the story ever finished? No. In life, is there happy ending? No. It's always going to continue. So Russian literature a lot is like you are being dropped off in this minute of their life, then you spend some time with them, and then you leave them. But their life goes on. And here he finishes with the word начинается, begins. His last word in this book is начинается, is beginning. How? Chekhov, please give me an answer. What's going to happen? But this is the exact purpose. You're supposed to think for yourself. and not really think of the finishing story and if it ended well or not, but think of their actions. Think of them as a continuous thing, not as a finished story, but more of what can happen, what can potentially happen with them, what happens in our life when two people feel like they were destined for each other, but they have already committed themselves to other people. His head is gray. Are you supposed to wait until you find your love into your old age? Probably not. Maybe you don't want that. Maybe you feel a little bit of attraction to someone and you want to just simply get married. Not wait for the true love. That happens as well. It's sad, but it's a reality. How many people do you guys know who got married? The love wasn't there. At least one side didn't really love the other side. And then time goes on and they find somebody, but they already have kids, commitments, society, who thinks of them as this couple. They cannot just break that apart. They cannot just let go of their life because we want to live our lives building something, building trust with people, building rapport, building good faith with people, building, respectability. Just getting up and leaving or erasing your life is not easy. And sometimes, especially if your hair is gray, you're thinking, well, comfortable is better than better and uncomfortable. Because it's so unpredictable. The life is so unpredictable. What if I won't like this new opportunity? My current situation is much better. At least I can predict it, right? And these are the thoughts that Chekhov put into me right now. Had he finished the story, probably wouldn't have these thoughts. Probably would have been like, yeah, this Gurov guy, he messed up. He's leaving his wife. That's just so messed up. But the nuance and the detail is so much more important than the final conclusion. And your own thinking is way more important than you being spoon-fed an answer. That is all. Let me read this last part all together, and then we'll be done. За что она его любит так? Он всегда казался женщинам не тем, кем был. И любили они в нем не его самого, а человека, которого создавало их воображение, и которого они в своей жизни жадно искали. И потом, когда замечали свою ошибку, то все-таки любили. И ни одна из них не была с ним счастлива. Время шло, он знакомился, сходился, расставался, но ни разу не любил. Было все, что угодно, но только не любовь. И только теперь, когда у него голова стала седой, он полюбил как следует, по-настоящему, первый раз в жизни. Анна Сергеевна и он любили друг друга как очень близкие, родные люди, как муж и жена, как нежные друзья. Им казалось, что сама судьба предназначила их друг для друга. И было непонятно, для чего он женат, а она замужем. И точно это были две прелестные птицы, самец и самка, которых поймали и заставили жить в отдельных клетках. Они простили друг другу то, чего стыдились в своем прошлом, прощали все в настоящем и чувствовали, что эта их любовь изменила их обоих. Прежде, в грустные минуты, он успокаивал себя всякими рассуждениями, какие только приходили ему в голову. Теперь же ему было не до рассуждений. Он чувствовал глубокое сострадание. Хотелось быть искренним, нежным. «Перестань, моя хорошая», — говорил он. «Поплакала и будет. Теперь давай поговорим. Что-нибудь придумаем». Потом они долго советовались. Говорили о том, как избавить себя от необходимости прятаться, обманывать, жить в разных городах не видеться подолгу? Как освободиться от этих невыносимых пут? «Как? Как?» — спрашивал он, хватая себя за голову. «Как?» И казалось, что еще немного, и решение будет найдено, и тогда начнется новая, прекрасная жизнь. И обоим было ясно, что до конца еще далеко-далеко, и что самое сложное и трудное только еще начинается. Finito. That's it. Whew. Tough stuff. Alright, guys. If you want to understand this Russian literature more deeply, join Be Fluent with the link in the description. See you all there, and see you all during the next podcast. Пока-пока.